So I'm sitting on my front porch after a hard day's work. And some of you that have been recently subscribed, you might have noticed that I do some fairly extreme prepping compared to what you might have seen. And you might want to dig back about 3 months ago in December when I put together something about the Grand Solar Minimum, because I'd been following several channels and I actually had to go do the research myself. I'm an ex-engineer, retired engineer, and I like to see data and I like to try to understand things. And I'm telling you, this is very compelling evidence that our sun has just gone to sleep. And we're going to go through a repeat of something called the Maunder Minimum, or worse. And what that means is that some of the things you're seeing, when you get a tremendous amount of snow up north, like we did this year, what happens when it melts? You get tremendous flooding. And not only that, the snow and bitter cold has just, we had some early frosts that destroyed, our fall wheat crops. And now, you've got layers of mud over the top of some of our prime farmland, and it's just too wet to plant. And last year, even the crops were delayed by about a month to plant, which means, there takes a certain amount of time for things to mature. And it's just, this is the beginning. This is the beginning of what's about to happen. And this will literally last decades. And back in the 1600s, we were pretty much an agrarian society. And so everybody had farms, everybody had gardens, even if you didn't have a farm. Now, a lot of people live in the cities and they're totally dependent on others. So anyways, it's just one of these things that it's going to be a struggle to survive. Even if you live in a semi-rural area and you have the means to prepare by getting, duplicate energy sources like solar, or you end up getting, some wood stoves and rain catchment and, food reserves and your own gardens and growing your own protein, rabbits and chickens like I have. I mean, you're going to have to, I recommend that you pull some money forward. There might be money that you had set aside that you're going to put towards the future in retirement or super rainy days, that kind of thing, that you're going to need to pull forward now, because things are going to get incredibly more expensive. Excuse me. And food is going to be almost unobtainable because it's just not going to be there. Costs are going to go through the roof. And the government may try to do some price controls and others, but if you go look at Venezuela, and I did a study on that, I've got a video about it, when they try to do price controls, those items just disappear, because the people manufacturing go, well, if I can't make any money, if I'm going to lose money making it, we'll just shut the plant down, and that's what they do. But governments will do stuff like that to appease people, but it's the wrong decision. You end up just losing everything. So I think it's going to be one of these things that this is going to be like a frog being boiled in a pot. This is going to come on slowly, but hopefully you're recognizing the signs of what's happening. And unfortunately, we have some other things that are occurring. Our monetary system is going to reset, and that's just because it has a historical, fiat currencies historically only last about 40 years, and we're past that. And so something's going to happen. Everything I'm seeing says that we're going to be moving to something that's somewhat gold-backed. And I just did a video on the $100 bill where there's some symbolism in there that indicates that that's going to be like close to 50% gold-backed. So we'll just have to wait and see how this is all going to pan out. But you need to take control of your future. If you're living in a place where you cannot self-sustain yourself, you need to figure out how to get out of there. And you need to get, where you can set up your own capabilities. I've chose North Georgia because it's south of the Mason-Dixon line. Anything north of the Mason-Dixon line is going to be just extremely difficult to live, just because of the bitter cold. I don't know how far south we're going to have to be to where we can eke out, survive, I should say. You know, we're probably all going to have to build high towers in our backyards and stuff to try to extend seasons. And you're definitely going to need to get some chickens for eggs. And, you know, chose to do rabbits because they're cold tolerant. And I chose, you know, Rhode Island Reds because they're cold tolerant. And you're going to have to think about that. Even solar is going to be a problem because in the Grand Solar Minimum, we're going to have a heck of a lot more cloud cover. And I did a video about how from like October, even through March so far, I'm significantly down from the 30-year historical information that PV Watts had. I should have had tremendous more solar generation, but we had just days upon days of fog or cloud or rain. You know, it just we just couldn't produce anything. So if our grid becomes unstable, what are you going to do? Do you have means of cooking? Do you have means of heating that doesn't rely on the grid? I think most don't. And it's going to be difficult. I mean, how are you going to survive in a city like LA or Chicago or whatever where you just don't have anything that you can grow yourself, provide for yourself? You can only stockpile so much food and water. You have to be able to supplement it with stuff you grow or stuff that you can buy. But if you can't buy it, if it's unavailable, what are you going to do? These are questions you've got to think about. I mean, civilizations have gone through collapse, and it's not pretty. Historically, it happens. Probably roughly every 400 years or so. Nothing lasts forever. So the idea is just for us to try to figure out how to not rely on the government, not rely on other people, not rely on these mega corporations. I mean, I even just did a video where Roundup, they're misusing it now, and they're spraying it all over the wheat, and it's causing all kinds, including myself, digestive issues. You know, celiac, whatever, and it's not good. You know, last thing you want is a herbicide completely sprayed all over the grains that you're planning on using for flour and breads and everything else. You know, that's just ridiculous. It used to be they'd spray around the plants, but now they're completely saturating them. So it's like everybody's lost their minds just to make a few extra bucks. You know, they found that they can get more grain if they do it that way, but it's like at what cost? You know, how's that help if you're losing your customers? You know, everybody's going gluten-free, or they're, you know, dying of horrible diseases from this stuff. So anyways, I wanted to just throw a few words in there because, you know, a lot of us, you know, we worked in offices our whole lives. And I mean, I dabbled in gardening in the backyard. We grew tomatoes and peppers and stuff, but now I'm trying to do it on a grander scale. I never had animals. I never had chickens. I never had rabbits, but, you know, we can all learn. I mean, I've only started doing this. It was like, I'd say September of 2017. And I'm starting to feel like I'm getting the knack for it. The gardening is very tough, by the way. It is tough. You really got to keep on top of it. And if we're all... Hold on a second, my dang dog. I've got a smoker, and there's a grease can that catches the grease that comes out of it. And my dog just caught him taking a nice drink out of that. He's going to have a nice breath later. That's disgusting. But anyways... you're going to have to think about this. By the time the media and everybody start really admitting that there's a major problem, you know, what are you going to do? There's 350 million people or more in the United States now. And, you know, what if there's only food for 50 million or something? I mean, what's going to happen? It's going to be a problem, right? Most people don't even cook at home anymore. You know, they eat out every meal. I bet you they don't even have a pantry that is substantial that would last them a couple weeks or more. Even our own Homeland Security is saying, hey, you need to at least have 6 months worth of food and water or whatever now. And I don't think that got a lot of headlines. But, you know, you need to think about how many people you got. how much food do you have to store per person to cover just for 6 months? It's an amazing number. And that's why I've decided that, you know, the only way you're going to do this is if you um, figure out a way to grow some of this yourself, and, you know, learn to can, because it is not cheap to buy this freeze-dried stuff. And, you know, it's not going to be the same quality of stuff you made anyways. You know what you like, you know. So I've decided, you know, when I cook a meal, we're going to cook, you know, like we're cooking for 10 people, even though there's 2 of us, and then the rest we're just going to can. And then that way we have our favorite meals already done. I have about 200 quart-sized jars completed, and it took me about 2 months to fill those up. So now I'm after my garden after my garden gets going really good, I'm going to start all over again, and I'm hoping to double that number of cans, and then we're just going to cycle through them. You know, so the stuff we made, you know, in the fall, we're going to start eating that stuff, and then, you know, you clean the jars, you reuse them, and you fill them up again. But I'm going to try to keep at least 400 or 500 quart-sized jars, you know, ready at the ready. And then it's just a simple warm-up, and maybe add some rice or beans to stretch it out, and you can feed a lot of people that way. That's what I have found to be the most cost-effective way to do it. I mean, you think about it, if you take a quart-sized jar and then you make some rice and you pour the contents over that, you actually probably could feed 4 or 5 people out of each quart-sized jar. So if you got 200 of those and you got 5 people you're trying to take care of, that's 200 days. That's half a year, right? So if you have 400 jars, then you got a year's worth. And then if you have a bunch of the freeze-dried stuff and everything, and then you have a pantry full that's like 3 months, now you can see how you can get that way. And then if you have chickens for eggs, and then you have rabbits, now you got something where you could actually keep people going for several years. So anyways, that's what you got to think. Pretty soon I'm going to start doing some of the math that it takes for food storage. You know, like a 50-pound bag of rice is supposedly 500 servings. But if you have actually a lot of stuff that's like the quart-sized jars of things, then, you know, it's even more, right? I don't recommend people trying to plan on just living on rice. That is going to be a god-awful boring diet. You got to have some variety. So anyways, there's more to come on this, but I just wanted you to really think about the fact that this could all end, in the sense that, you know, we just hope, or we're so used to just going down to the grocery store, getting what we want, and those that are used to just eating out every meal, that might not be an option. And it could come quicker than you think. It could come very quick. It could just be shut down. I mean, I've noticed, like, the potatoes in the grocery store, they're like miniature now. If I go to Sam's Club, I can still get some of the premium stuff, some of the big monster ones. But, you know, my local Kroger, the potatoes they're pathetic. And that's just because the crops have not been good. They've been failing. And these are indicators, you know. I noticed that they don't have as much fresh vegetables and stuff. It's like a bare minimum that you can get there. And a lot of them just are not as pristine. And so our standards are going to have to change, you know, when we go to eat. When I pull stuff out of my garden, I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, if you ever grow a garden, you're just not going to believe how much more tastier it is. Even the eggs, I did a video showing the difference between the eggs. There's just so much more life in the eggs versus what you get in the store, which are, you know, upwards of 6 months old before you even buy them. So, you know, everything's kind of drained of life that you buy in the store anyways. I mean, the tomatoes are picked green, and then they're gassed to change the color, and so they're like consistency of cardboard versus these things you just grow yourself. So unless you've done it, you wouldn't understand it. So anyways, I wanted to just get this out here and get you thinking, because the day's coming. We are about to experience something very traumatic. And in fact, it's going to be one of these things that each year is going to get more and more difficult. And from what I'm seeing, by 2028, the food system just shuts down. And it's going to shut down for at least 4 years. There's going to be zero food. So, but it's going to get worse and worse leading up to that point. So we only have a short time to prepare and learn how to do this. And that was actually in my video about the grand solar minimum. All right, well, that's I've reached 15 minutes, and normally I only like to go about 10, but this is an important subject, and I want you to start thinking about it. It doesn't matter how much money you have if it's not available. You're not going to be able to buy what you want. So you need to figure out how to be self-sufficient. Some of us, we're actually just going to have to figure out how to combine resources. That's probably the only way you're going to be able to survive. You need to find some like-minded people, and you're just going to have to pool your resources and get it done. You know, combine. I mean, it used to be 100 years ago we had multiple generations of family living in one house. That's probably what's going to have to happen to make it through this. People in the cities got to move out to, hopefully they have some family that, you know, is in a rural area that they can get set up. But I mean, you got to start now. You're not going to be able to learn how to do this if you wait till it's too late. It's hard. This is very difficult. This gardening is tough. The timing is, and you know, the timing may get all screwed up in this gardening too if our seasons change dramatically. You know, it's just going to be colder, or it's going to be more you know, cloudy and more rainy, and that means more fungus problems, and so it's just going to get tough. So anyways, you got to start now, and you got to learn how to adapt, and you've got to, you know, maybe build some high towers and get more controlled environments to grow and help extend your seasons, all that kind of stuff. Right now, I'm just trying to do it in normal weather conditions, and forget it, man. This is really, it's hard. It's hard. You got to learn. All right, well, I hope everybody's treating you well, and I want you to, you know, please think about this and try to figure out how to manage this, how to, you know, get off the grid as much as you can, duplicate, you know, create your own power, get your own wood, get your own heat, do as much as you can, you know, get your own food, and that's the only way we're all going to be able to survive. So God bless, and hope everybody's treating you well.